All right. So, good morning, everybody. Good evening in America and good afternoon in Australia. This is China time. I'm waiting for Ziv to come in. Ziv?
Yes, just a minute.
Okay. Um, all right. So, guys, before we get into the topic, let's talk a little bit about one of the things that we want you guys to do. We want you to like this video and subscribe to our channels. Um, I am Fermue and my co-host
Yeah.
in, of course, China. One of the channels that you should subscribe to. Oh, I just saw that my microphone isn't shut. Is of course China, and Ziv Lickman is the other channel that should subscribe as well. So Ziv, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Fernando. I was watching a bit of your live stream last night, walking the streets. Yeah,
Did
was
you
an
see I got
interesting.
mugged?
I see. I was thinking one thing. Bess did a good job doing the
Yeah,
video,
indeed. Yeah,
and
I gotta
it's
thank my man Caliber Wings.
Caliber Wings. I think he's watching. Um,
Yeah, he is.
And it's good. It's a nice morning. It's a nice day here in South
Mm,
China, in Dongguan, right? And this is after last week we did the evening, and now we are doing the morning China time. Hopefully,
hmm.
everybody feel it's a convenient time for them. You can let us know in
Yep.
the comments, or, so we can adjust what necessary adjustments to do for the time. And like you said, since the last live stream, I got some new followers. So thank you everybody that subscribed. And if you have not subscribed yet to my channel, do it now.
Ziv Lickman. Ziv
Yeah.
Lickman. All right. We want to start talking then about let's see how many. Oh, we got 19 people watching. Thank you. Caliber Wings says the following. He says Fernando looks like he didn't get good sleep from last
Maybe
night.
it's all that
No,
beef.
all that. Get out of here. We actually ran into Siv having dinner with his friends and family at the restaurant that Caliber Wings and I went to last night, and that was. I mean, I knew you were there, but I thought you finished
Right.
already. So
Right.
we
Yes.
caught each other
So did you
eating
not
beef.
get a good night's sleep?
I was kind of nervous about today, to be honest. I don't know why. So I woke up quite early. And you know that I like to interact with my audience. So I am always checking the comments and giving them hearts and likes and commenting.
One
So I was up until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow! One thing though, I was checking out this morning. I was checking out the Twitter. What you told me about
Hmm.
between Daniel
Yeah.
and Winston.
Yeah.
Um, it's quite interesting. Yeah, I liked what Jerry said. He said he would put it on pay-per-view, and I would pay too. Let's hope this happens, even though it's probably not going to.
I don't know if Daniel is watching, but I just received a few messages from Daniel. I'll listen to them when we finish the show. But
Right.
Daniel, if you're watching, sorry, hey, here's another voice message. All right. So, well, let's get into the nitty gritty of this video, right? Ziv. So the title is what?
Yes.
The
So
title
we are
is
talking about, will China rule the world? And
correct.
I think that we need to start this discussion, and everybody, this is a discussion, right? So we don't have the
Mm-hmm.
clear answers, and we would appreciate your comments with your thoughts. And I think the first we need to start with, what does it mean to rule the world? Fernando, what do you think?
Well, to rule the world, basically, I think that there's a difference between ruling the world and leading the world. Leaders lead by example. Rulers just impose their will on, well, whoever they are on top of, right?
Right.
So the first answer to the question whether China will rule the world, although there are many facets and many aspects to this question, and that's what we're going to go into bit by bit. In general, I think that China will not rule the world. China, as you mentioned, China does not intend to rule the world. It intends to be the best it can be for its people. But what
Right.
is
So
your take on the
so
question?
you already went into the second question, really, that is like, will does China want to rule the world? But I mean, what is ruling the world? I think from putting some thought into that and researching, nobody really ruled the world in the last, let's say, 100 years. Like you said, it was more USA took the role of leadership. I think in a big way. You can research and see for yourself. You can argue whether some of their many interventions were right or not. But
Mm,
I think that this is not like hundreds of years ago. The old times where some countries or people were really trying to rule the world, right? As we, I think the British and before, Romans and etc. But yeah, I think ruling the world to the most extent, as you said, is it's taking a role of leadership.
hmm
Yeah.
Sorry, I think that one of the things that we need to appreciate when we discuss this is that America has been involved in some kind of war for most of its history,
Oh yeah, a
and
lot of interventions.
a lot internally and outside, and
Yes.
it's all been in a pursuit for imposing democracy. Like democracy is the banner. Democracy is the flag that they bear across the chest. And yeah, let's bring democracy to all these countries. Um, and the interesting thing to see is that, well, democracy is struggling nowadays in America. So it
But
becomes, yep.
the democracy is the banner. You're right, but and I do believe that in many cases democracy was the first thing they think about, and bringing their democratic values, which is I think it's a good thing. But you could easily find the cookie crumbs for economic returns from those interventions, for future
Hmm.
economic returns. So yeah, but I think that's also kind of normal, like interest um, that they had.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, from the beginning of times, there's always been wars of exclusion, which means the bigger you get, the more smaller nations or groups you're going to crush. And that's what's been happening. Now, it's it's important to think that, to look at what China has always tried to do. They have tried to unify their country from the warring states until now. The main focus has always been to unite China so they can live in harmony and prosper and do better. So it's a stark contrast between what America does or has done as the number one leader, and what China has done to unite and unify its country, and what it is doing now with its Belt and Road Initiative, which you reminded me yesterday has a new name. What is it?
I think it's One Belt Initiative, but yeah, before it
One
was
Belt
Belt and Road.
Initiative.
And Belt and Road, the funny part is that the belt is the land, and the road is
Mm-hmm.
the maritime, the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, this is a huge thing. But let's look at some comments here, Fernando.
Let me bring
See what.
up some comments. Anyone in
Yes.
particular that you want to talk about?
No, I'm just looking right now. I'm trying to read it. Let's see.
Okay,
Let's go back a bit.
I just saw a very interesting comment. Um, Let me see. Okay, this one is interesting. This one says GDP is too Western a measure and can be a means but not the purpose. I find that very interesting and very true. I mean, when you look back at Trump's presidency, and other presidents in the past, but particularly Trump's presidency, he was extremely focused and narrowed on the stock market. Look at the stock market. Look at the stock. The stock market doesn't necessarily represent the economy. The stock market is one side of the economy and doesn't incorporate so many social aspects of the economy. What do
Right.
you think about this?
If we're talking about the comparison between China and the USA, I mean, if you want to talk about GDP as a measure, I think in true GDP, in purchasing power, China is already above the USA. That's what I was looking at yesterday. Actually,
What do you mean by true GDP?
There are this purchasing power of the people, because goods cost differently in different countries, right?
Yeah.
So just the regular way to look at GDP is one way, and then there is the kind of true GDP. But also, I mean, China is getting close to the US in the part they have in the world's GDP. I think China is at 16% right now. And it's growing, and the US is getting smaller as the part of the cake. So the question was, or the statement was, that it's not the right measure, right? GDP. I think it's definitely one of the things to think about, for sure. I mean, economic, it's what, that's the game today in the world, right? And I think that if we want to talk a little bit about the One Belt initiative, I think this is very, very impressive. I actually only looked at it a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It's
How many countries are involved?
Quite amazing. I think there are about 130, 140 countries already involved
144,
in some
I think.
way. In some way, yes. Some as in, investors. They have some project being built. And I think this is similar. What's the interesting part for me is that I think this project, this massive project, is in a way similar to what the US have done in the last century. In other ways, right? They went outside and they helped rebuild other countries.
Well, but there's a very big difference. I mean, what America did, they basically, through the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, they financed development in, well, third world countries that benefited the extraction of resources that they had interest in these particular countries. So they didn't build roads that the nation needed. They built the roads that led to the harbor where they could take, or they built the airport that was needed to take, you know what I mean?
Right.
They developed the country according to their interests. And basically the interest and the conditions of those loans from the International Monetary Fund meant that they wouldn't be able to repay them in time, or according to the terms and of the agreement.
Some would say the debt. Some would say the debt trap.
Exactly. Think of African
issue.
countries. I mean, rich countries like African countries. And what they do is they topple whoever the leader is, and they install a puppet who is going to be favorable to the request of the International Monetary Fund or
I think you can argue that. I think you can argue that this is also a case of you damned if you do, you damned if you don't.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
So when you look at the investment that China is making in a lot of these countries, it's very different. I mean, I've read some news about China actually forgiving some of the debt that some African countries owe to China because of the projects and the development that they're bringing to the region. I apologize.
Right. I mean,
and it's more of a win-win situation. Let me point one thing out. Think about the Xinjiang region. There is a border train station that actually leads all the railways out of China and the region towards, well, the Middle East and then Europe. so many businesses and small villages have benefited from this particular point of commerce. It's a hub in the west of China, and
Sure.
it's benefiting other countries.
In
That's
Israel, they are building the port, big seaport, I think, in Haifa. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, there are many things to think about. A lot of it's a big debate because a port is has security measures and issues, and some people are saying China has close ties with Iran, for
Mhm.
example. So
Yep.
there are many arguments to here and there, but like I said before, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. A lot of these projects will not be possible for these countries if
Mhm.
not China, right?
Yep.
So in a way, China see that the infrastructure improvements, and it really went a long way inside China in the past 3 decades. In a way, you can say it's the one major thing that made China be what it is today economically. Without all this infrastructure, things would be much more difficult to develop the economy. So they are trying to do the same in other countries, knowing that in the end it comes back and it will help them as well. But I think it's helping other countries at the same time. And you can debate a lot whether some of these projects is it overreaching or debt trapped or all of those things. But I am interested to know if you are watching this, and what do you think about the One Belt initiatives, and do China do any projects in your countries at the moment? Let's see what some
Well,
people are saying.
let us know in the comment section down below. Mhm.
Right, right. You so
Well, here's one thing that CM Charm is commenting. America goes to Africa and opens a military base. Yeah,
right,
not
right.
only Africa.
Right. Yeah. So of course, America. Like I said, I was looking a couple of days ago, and the interventions America have have made in other countries. It's you can read it for a couple of hours. You need to
Yeah.
go over all the intervention in the last 200 years. It's a
And
lot.
and the idea of development that America has had is very different from this Belt and Road Initiative. Think about the Monroe Doctrine in Latin America. It is the quintessential definition of a debt trap. Countries that were developed only for the benefit of, um, well, America, to bring out all the resources from the countries, and again, all the interventions, all the things that they did in Chile, for example, in Argentina,
Right.
all over the world, they're toppling leaders and placing their preferred leaders. Who's my cat hair? So that it's
Where
going to
does
be
China?
beneficial.
Where does China have army bases outside of China? I wonder.
Good question. Good
Right.
question. And I invite
I
people
assume
to.
I assume it's around Asia in some countries that are their allies, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure they have anything in other places.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership or ruling the world from a military standpoint. How do you feel
Right.
about China ruling militarily or
I
leading
think
militarily?
okay. So first of all, I think one of it's a very good point. One of the main reasons America has been the leader of the free world, as they say, in the past 70 years, is they have the strongest military. You do need to have this notion that don't fuck with me, basically. Whatever happens, I'm stronger
There
than
goes
you, right?
monetization.
When you veto decisions or whatever, you do need to have some kind of power, right? So I think America still have the strongest army in the world, but China has big numbers, and I think they're working on strengthening their military. But I'm not sure, how. I mean, we live here in China, and you don't see military in the streets, which is I mean,
I
I
I
come from Israel, so I see a lot of military in the street.
I come from
um,
Colombia. We do too.
right,
Look, I think that the world revolves around um, America's military. Let me explain. Um, think about what's going to happen if the the dollar is no longer the currency that is connected to oil, for example. Today, all transactions that take place in terms of oil have to be done in US dollar. That gives the US huge stability in terms of enable them to print money any way they want, running into
right,
huge debts. But it also means that they protect their interests in the region with weapons, with military bases around the Middle East. So these countries buy America's protection with oil,
right.
basically.
So I see the
Once,
comment.
yeah,
Sirens Way say China only have peace troops sent by U.S. overseas by UN overseas. So basically,
yes, blue
China has
helmets, I think.
troops that they're
Yeah.
sending to UN. Like I think many countries that are members of the UN, they are obligated to do that. I believe. By the way, seeing working with UN troops in some borders in Israel. They're not really military, I would say. They are very limited.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it makes sense that China doesn't have it. Let's see what someone. You see any other comment here?
Mm, let me see. Okay, here's one. Dave, PSK. Westerners don't help us do it if we don't pay hefty prices. Yep. Okay,
Right.
here's another one for Dave. China has many projects here at my state of Sabah, Malaysia. If they don't come to help build the highways, high-rise bridges, etc., no one will make it because locals don't know.
Right.
I've spoken a lot about the ability to build infrastructure, and we're going to talk about infrastructure in a second. I just wanted to bring us back a little bit to the topic. Let me put this down 1 second, of how important it will be for the world to decouple from the petro oil, from the petrodollar. Sorry, and I think that cryptocurrency is something that is going to play a very important role in this aspect when the world starts to decouple from the US dollar. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but at one point it will probably take place. Um, it is going to be the beginning of the end of America.
How is China with cryptocurrency, Fernando?
Well, they already tested. They are doing what they do best, which is have pilot programs in different cities. So in Shenzhen, I think it was last year, they released a certain amount of money. I think it was 2 million RMB, and people were able to exchange and purchase with cryptocurrency here in the country. And because it was so successful, they are now implementing this pilot project in a few more cities. So that's what they do. They test things, see how it works, see how it's received, and then they take it to other places, and then they become a national thing. Uh, uh,
That's another advantage that China has actually. Now that you say that, yesterday I was talking to Tim in the dinner about the AI, for example, right,
mhm.
and the face recognition, and he knows a thing or two about it more than me and you, I think. And he said that China, just being so massive, that really helps them get a big advantage in technology and in testing, for example, stuff like what you just said. They have a bigger playing field, and I think they're able to conduct this kind of tests.
Pilot programs. Hmm.
Yes. So so that is interesting too. And like I say, the currency I think plays a big role. I mean, as long as I remember being here in China for the last 15, 20 years, currency and the war over the currency and exchange have been in the news, right, with US and China.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that a few years ago, there was even before Trump.
Mm.
Yeah. So
All right. So we're kind of like flying over different topics that we want to cover, but we're gonna get to your comments and your questions in a moment. Another important thing that I think it means a lot when you think about ruling the world or leading the world has to do with climate change.
right.
What China is doing in terms of the environment. Um, what have you experienced from living here in from living here in Dongguan in terms of the environment?
um Sorry. So in terms of the environment, I think sometimes I say China is this, China is that, and it's better, but we also have to admit that we have been here for so long. So
Hmm.
sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on the ground in other countries where we actually lived in, or our countries even. But I mean, if what we see here, I think that for example, cars, green license plates,
Everywhere.
yeah, everywhere, exactly. In the last, well, gradually, but like it's still, you could see more and more and more. For example, all the Didi cars, which is our Uber, right? um Pretty much all of them are
Yeah.
green license plates, like big majority.
Look, no matter where you go, at least in Guangdong and Beijing, which are some of the places that I've traveled in the last 2 years, every single public transportation bus is electric. So imagine the commitment to electrifying the national fleet that it represents to change all your transportation into electric cars. That to me is unbelievable. I was in Foshan for the Chinese New Year. All buses are electric. All taxis are electric.
And I
It's
think they I
it's
think they
commendable.
export I think they export a lot of these electric buses. I think
Yeah.
Israel bought many buses from them even. So they're
I even saw
spreading that.
something that I hadn't seen. I don't know if you've seen it. Remember, there was a huge explosion of rental bikes, bikes that you can just scan the QR code and use them.
That's
In
that's a big
Foshan,
topic. Yeah. Yes.
no. In Foshan, I saw them electric. Now you can rent electric bikes, scanning a QR code. Again, going into this whole electrifying the country as a means of transportation. But let's talk about some of the projects that the country has done in terms of afforestation, reforestation. There's unbelievable images coming from the west of China of deserts that have been afforested within a matter of 10 years. I don't have those clips here, but you can just Google Western China forestation and you'd see the unbelievable work that they have done. Um, it's unbelievable. But look, from a personal perspective, without having traveled to these places and taken videos myself, what's the air quality in Dongguan like now compared to what it was when you first got here, Ziv?
The air quality, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um the air quality, I think we already got used to we got used to a much better air quality, right? When I came here, I think that the blue sky day would be very rare. We would be
Yeah.
like, we would put something
Oh,
on social media, maybe. We would
blue
let
sky
our
today.
friend know. Blue sky day, yes, exactly. And now it's yeah, it's very common now, right? So I mean,
Now we don't point it out.
I think
Now it's a
factories that
common
moved
thing.
away, regulations, environmental regulations enforced. Some factories that could comply stayed, some factories couldn't. um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and it's quite remarkable, right? Yeah. So I think China is doing a lot. I'm sure that other countries do their share. I mean, I doubt about the U.S. under Trump administration, but hopefully now it will be more pushed.
Look, I felt when we talk about will China rule the world or lead the world, I think that it was it became more apparent and more evident when America started to step away from leadership roles in the world, from the WHO, from all the
Right,
complaining about NATO, the Paris Agreement. I
right.
mean, I'm forgetting, but there's two big ones that come to mind. And when you see what has taken place
Even the
in the
agreement with
last
Iran.
yeah, the nuclear agreement with Iran, in the last 6 months,
Right.
China has signed the largest trade agreement in the world with Asian countries, and it does not include America. That's a that's a huge leap forward in terms of
I think
leadership in the
America
world.
America is trying to do their own initiatives now to combat that. I think America,
Hmm.
Australia, and another country.
Hmm. And sorry to interrupt, but the second thing that's taken place not too long ago is a new trade agreement with the European Union. The European Union is looking at China and is looking at America and is looking, hmm, hmm. I think I'll go this way. It's that simple. I mean,
Right. I think
well,
someone
I don't know.
just
How do you see
commented
it?
here.
Yeah,
I just
RCEP.
stopped you for
Yes.
a second. Someone, big bully is never a capable leader. Wise one can be, and that is true. I think we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, me and you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
China have seen how ruling inside China works for them. We can see it, right? People's lives got so much better, and if everybody is happy, then the leadership is happy too, right? And actually the leadership can carry out more of their interests, more things. So I think it's the same for leading the world. I believe that China will do it in the same way. China understands that everybody needs to be, all the sides need to be happy, and I think history shows that kind of sentiment mentality from China.
Cyrus Jensen, which is a big YouTuber and a very knowledgeable person, he's all over the news here in China as well. He posted something yesterday comparing what Ted Cruz has done in Texas when he decided to leave for Cancun in the middle
Right.
of one of the worst energy crisis in the state. And what he mentioned is that if that was a leader here in China, he would have been sacked within a New York second. He would have been fired. And he contrasted what happened in Wuhan. A
Right.
few weeks after Wuhan, a few weeks after Wuhan, many leaders were actually sacked. They were like, "You're fired," and they brought more experts from different parts of China to take care of the situation.
I
China
think this
is
is
a meritocracy. If you don't deliver, you're out.
I think this is
Sorry, Ziv.
more true in the last decade under Xi Jinping than than,
Yes,
than the couple decades before that. And
yes.
you can argue, of course, the how strict they may be now, but
Hmm.
what you just said is true for these years. The requirement to lead by example, no corruption. Um, so it's taken very seriously here. And some, like I said, some can argue it's too strict. But again, the result is what you say, that leaders cannot just do this kind of thing like Ted Cruz just did, which is nothing criminal, but it's just not the right thing.
Mm. Let me bring something that I would like to say thank you to. OSS says this live stream really interesting. I'm added more knowledge from here and also from the constructive live chat. Thank you. I mean, this live stream is a combination of the live chats and the conversations that you have in the live chat and what we bring to you. So thank you all for participating, for watching and interacting. We love you.
Right. Let me
And
also give
remember, click the like button, guys. That helps us quite a lot. Ziv.
Right. Let me also, I want to remind people about my channel. I need to get a few more followers there since I just started, if you don't know, a month ago. And I will give you the link here. So it's easy, right? Fernando, do you have it?
I
I'll
can
give
find it for you. Okay. Why
Fernando,
don't you tell me?
I'll give it to you, and you will put
I'll
it
bring it
there.
up.
And
Yeah.
I would
Sure.
really appreciate any new subscriber, guys.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's here. I will copy. Ping, ping, ping. Okay.
Go
So,
watch on my
guys.
channel too.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's not only the subscribers that. Okay, let me explain why it's a good idea to follow Ziv Lickman. This is a person that has been in the country just a couple of years, under 20, 17 years.
18 soon, yeah.
And in his work running a magazine here, he knows so many people, he knows so many entities. He has actually so much access to information here on the ground that what he says it from a very knowledgeable standpoint.
Yeah, I
That's why
have
you need to follow his channel.
thank you, Fernando. I have a video coming up. I'm making a video about my trademark battle in the intellectual property court. I was in Beijing last month attending the court, and that is an interesting topic. You can
Yeah.
see in the video coming out in a week or two.
We're not going to give much of the information, but yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. And Ziv is a person who has lived here, has gone through a lot of things, and knows and has had contact with many entities, government, private, of all kinds. So a lot of a lot of insights. So this is why I thought it's a great idea to partner with him and do, of course, China. For those of you who are watching, of course, China is not a live streaming podcast. We are hoping to bring it live stream, but it will always be in-person interviews. So this digital kind of Skype calls and things like that, we would do it here in China time, where we can broadcast to both Ziv's channel, my channel, and of course China. So that's basically a thing to remember. This is somehow connected to, of course, China, but it isn't. This is just a show called China Time. It's your
What do we have coming
show.
up? And of course, China. Maybe you can mention as well the next couple of
Mister.
chapters.
Okay, what's coming
yeah.
up next is Mr.
Yeah,
Caliber Wings.
Caliber Wings is out. Our interesting conversation with him these couple of days. It will be out on, of course, China. And the week after, we have a very interesting podcast episode we just filmed yesterday. Yes.
Yes, sir. We went to Sunshine Lake.
With an Chinese American that studied in the US. He's from China and came back here to China and opened his company doing AI. So that's
it's very interesting story from many perspectives. Number one, he is a Chinese person from the rural areas, not a rich Chinese, and he managed to get to study in America. That's number one. The second thing that's very interesting is after working many years in America and being successful, he decided to come back to China. You're gonna have to watch the episode to learn more about it. But that to me was like,
This is actually, I will take something from that conversation that actually is something that keeps coming up in different conversations and related in some way to our topic now, will China rule the world? This, remember what we spoke about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that person, Tony, that you will see on, of course, China next week or in 2 weeks.
The week after.
He went to California to study. In 1998, and he graduated and he stayed there, and he was in the Silicon Valley for 15 years, working. And this is similar to another person we interviewed, Joe Wang, the comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And same story, around the same years, end of the 90s, went to the US to study, did his master. and stayed in the US. And those people got American passports and everything. But today, it's very different. All the overseas students, and I'm connected with many here in Dongguan,
The
a lot of people go to
DGOSA.
study abroad, right? And it seems they all come back these days. So as China developed, and the last 2 decades, people still, they really want to go and get some Western education, but they come back here because the opportunity is here, and that's what they see now, right, Fernando?
The the application of the knowledge that they have received abroad is here. They come here and they apply it here. That's what the numbers show us when we look at DGOSA, which is the Dongguan Overseas. What is it?
DGOSA, Dongguan Overseas Scholar Association.
So these are groups of people who study abroad and come back to China to help their country, to help push and propel their country further. All right, let's get back to the topic 1 second.
Let's
How
go back to a
about
comment. Someone commented here that Benson, no one needs to rule the world. We just need to mind our own business. This is it's a good comment. It's an interesting comment. I mean, in some way, I agree with that. But also, I think that some parts of the world need help from other parts.
I think that globalization is, once you open it, reverting to protectionism is very difficult. And that was one of the main criticisms of China, that it protected its industries for a long time, even after joining the WTO. But little by little, it has freed them, and to the point where now they export this technology. Think of TikTok, ByteDance, so many high-tech products that are now mainstream abroad when they were protecting their industries. And look at what America is doing right now: banning Huawei, banning DJI drones, banning this, banning that, banning 5G.
Yeah,
America is reverting to protectionism.
Someone just wrote the what is it? Someone here said U.S. sanctions amount to genocide. Can you explain that? I think genocide is a very, very serious word.
It's a word that is used, yeah. Okay, that's a completely different,
No, but what you
live
said, you
stream, I
were
think.
talking about sanctions, right? And
Yeah.
no, I don't think it's amount to genocide. I think people take their opinions too extreme and use words too freely, right?
Yeah.
But
for or against China's position in the world, they use it freely. You have Adrian Sense using the word genocide as if it were nothing, and we also need to be careful not to use it in defense of China.
Someone just wrote business genocide. I guess that's the meaning, right? So I mean,
when Dave says, okay, it was not Dave, it's somebody else was talking about business. I think that that's the main thing about China. We shouldn't mind our own business. China wants to do business with the world. China, everything's about business. Hey, how can we do business? How can we benefit each other?
Right.
It reminds me of the comedian Ronnie Chen. He had a special during Chinese New Year, and it says, "I hope you get rich, bitch," or something like that.
But that's a good point. That's a good point you're talking about. Let's talk about this for a second, right? If everything is about business, where is promoting values or promoting peace? How about that? Do China do anything about that?
If you are at war, how are you going to be able to do business properly? If your business is not war, and that's probably the main thing, China's business is not war.
No, but you think with China's strength, economic strength, and would they be able to take it to other places? Because you may listen to that country that supports you, that you really need for help, and China can use that for to help with solving conflicts, don't you think?
Well, I think that what they're trying to export, and this is how they are trying to influence the world, is make your people happy. This is what you mentioned earlier. Make your people happy, and you will have peace. You'll have progress, and then we
Right.
can do much better business. That's the model. Um,
We
but
have some trolls here, I see. Yes, some people talking about it. There's no moderator today. No. Maybe we
yeah,
should have
we need
asked
to
Caliber
engage the
Wings.
services of Caliber Wings.
Yes. Next one, Caliber Wings.
We'll have you as a moderator. We can leave it there. Okay. Um, well, the next thing that I think is very important when you think about leadership influence is cultural. And I think this
Cultural.
is one where China has a very long way to go.
I
Cultural means, for example, music, film, art, fashion,
I think China.
language.
I think actually in the history that is really what China cares about most. The cultural, the respect to the China's very old historical culture, and I think that you say that there is a long way. Do you mean like as an influence?
Well,
What,
because I
do you mean
think
like
I
people
think
listening to Chinese music?
yes. For I mean, when you think about it, language has been a very important tool for imperialism or colonialism, right? So when you force other countries to speak English because you want to do business in the world, you have to speak English. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't see Chinese becoming the language of international business anytime soon.
Right.
Would you
But
agree?
um, yes, and actually a little bit of no, because um, I mean it's obvious what you said, of course, but
It takes a very long time.
I mean already in the world, not just us being here. You know how my kids, for example, they I prefer they learn Chinese than they learn Hebrew, which is Hebrew is my language, right? But that's
Hello to Queenie, your teacher, your kid's teacher.
but that's just us here. Let's say not even that. Even in the USA, in many schools, I know from my friends, you can choose Chinese now. Unheard
Hmm.
of 10, 20 years ago, I think. I mean, people around the world understand that um, speaking Chinese is a huge advantage going into the future. So will it become a major first language? No, but it's already in some way a major language.
It's a language of interest. There's interest in China all over the world, so a lot of people are starting to learn English. It's
And
an
one thing,
important.
another thing is in culture, right? History, right? So
You talk to the historian, yeah,
yeah, so we talked to Jeremiah
Jeremy,
in
Jeremiah.
Beijing, and we have it on, of course, China. Very interesting guy, a history teacher, writer in Beijing for 18 years. He didn't like that I call him a historian. I think he's just being modest, and anyway, we talked about understanding China through its history, and I think that's another thing the West doesn't know yet. The West doesn't really know China's history. Not many people yet have been looking into that. Not TV. There weren't many things on TV. There was the Marco Polo show on Netflix,
Hmm.
which is a good one. It does give you some kind of window to Chinese history, even though not 100% correct. They mixed together different eras, but it's a good window. And I think that that's another thing that we could see more and more. I believe there would be more people in the West knowing China's long history. Um, yeah, so like China also owns now some movie companies, right?
Hollywood is Chinese.
Yes, yes, and movie theater as well, right? So that's
So
another
yeah,
way
I think
culturally.
we talked. I think it was with you or was with Caliber Wings yesterday about the movie, The Wandering Earth. The Wandering Earth for me was a very interesting movie for. I don't know if you guys in the comment section or the people who are watching this have watched that movie, but I recommend it that you watch it. It's a
Which one is
very
it?
well made movie. It's called The Wandering Earth. Basically, there has been an explosion on Earth, and they create this spaceship that's traveling through space, looking for a new planet to inhabit. So there's international teams traveling in this particular spaceship. And okay, very quick story, right? So there's a problem, and they're headed to a star. They're gonna collide with a star, and then all the teams start to try and save the Earth basically from colliding. And what you see there is the American teams running away from the scary situation. So they're portrayed as, oh, they're jumping ship, and is the Russian and the Chinese space astronauts or space scientists, whatever, who actually save the Earth from colliding. So this kind of soft messaging is interesting, and I compared it to Rambo, killing 300 Vietnamese, right? Ta, 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 ta. And you watch that, and you, when you were a kid, you were like, huh, America,
Right,
cool, huh? So
right.
being able to produce movies that portray your country in a certain way, it's it's important. It's
I think,
important.
yeah, I think China's history is fascinating, very fascinating. There is so much material there, and they are showing
Mm,
all the history in on TV in China, um, but not so much around the world yet, I think.
mhm.
Any interesting
How
comments
do
there,
you?
Fernando?
Okay, I have. I just wanted to make one comment about. I forgot what I wanted to say. Oh, culturally speaking, right? We were also talking about music, and to me, something that I found very interesting is how influential Korean music has become in the West. Do you know that boy band? Is it BTS or
um,
something? I'm
Korean
too old for this.
music, Japanese
K-pop.
art. Yes.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think China's history has good potential if people do it the right way. You know.
The new advent of I'm gonna butcher this. Excuse me, my Chinese is so bad. Hongfu, is it? The traditional Chinese clothes. You see
The
kids walking in malls wearing their traditional Chinese clothes. If somebody could put it in the is it hamfu?
traditional Chinese clothes and the cheap out the dress for the women. You mean?
Yeah, but no, more like those classic ones that look like from the cartoons or from fairy tales. You see kids walking around completely dressed up in this costume, and well, that's also something that is being exported culturally from China.
I mean, think about the other way around. Think about the cultural import to China, right? In some way, the Western culture, it's
Hmm.
quite strong. They do let it. I think the government in China is push and pull, right? They allow Western culture. I mean, and but they don't want too much of it. Do you feel that sometimes?
Sorry, I was looking at the comments. What was your question, Ziv?
I was saying the Western culture influence in China
Hmm. Yeah,
is
I
something
mean,
that is evident, but I think they want to be careful with that.
it's very interesting to me. For example, when you talk about fashion, I ask a 40-year-old, "Hey, do you ever wear jeans?" Most 40. Remember that of course China show that we did with Rachel.
Yep.
We're promoting, of course, China because it's a great channel. You guys have to go there and subscribe. So much content there. And the younger generation, they're all into jeans. It's westernization of the fashion,
Right.
don't you
Right.
think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there is more and more influence, and you can see it in many things. But I mean,
Oh,
will China be influencing the West in culturally again with these kind of things? I think it will be more and more, but
That's the
I
one of
think, yeah,
the ones that I think is debatable. I mean, it will probably yes, but it will take quite a long time because of the
yes,
language barrier.
not just the language barrier.
Technologically,
The culture is
yes.
very different.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
but yeah, I think it will take longer culture wise.
There's one thing that I wanted us to address, and uh, in terms of leadership, will China lead the world, sorry, politically? Will China lead the world in terms of, as we were talking, imposing democracy around the world? That was America's thing, and other countries. Do you think that China will push for socialism or communism around the world? Ziv, what do you reckon?
I think history shows us that that's not what China is looking to do. I think that that's what the West is afraid of. That's what they
Hmm.
push as their, to scare the people. I think,
Yeah.
and I think that China is way smarter than just doing that. And
Hmm.
even if one thing is that I think China has a huge advantage over the rest of the world, and I think I said it many times to you. Um, Patience. China has so much patience. I mean, it's really coming out of their culture. You can see this in small things in daily life. Chinese people, but they play long, 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 long game. While the West or any other country, really, politicians, they're thinking of their chair tomorrow. And I think that Xi Jinping, I bet Xi Jinping thinks 150 years ahead. Well, he wouldn't even be here, but and that
Yeah.
is powerful.
That's extremely powerful. I mean, you have democratic countries. Let's talk about America because I know there are other Western countries that are a little bit different. But you're changing president every 4 years. You're changing senators every 6 years. So everybody's thinking about, okay, what am I going to do? What do I have to do to remain in power? What do I have to do to? And what I have to do is, if I'm not in power, is stop the opposition, the other party, from being successful. If the other party is successful, then I'll never get to be in power because everybody's gonna be happy with this particular party.
Right
In
now,
China, they have this meritocracy, right? So if you're doing a great job, you stay in your job. That's what people say, like, oh, Xi Jinping is president for life. No, he is allowed to be re-elected by the Communist Party members to rule for another 5 years. And that's what they did. That's what they changed. There was a limit of terms, and what they say, there's no more terms, but he needs to be re-elected every 5 years
and by the
based
way,
on,
some
yeah.
other countries some other countries don't have term limits anymore anyway, like Israel.
Hmm.
um now
Netanyahu, how long has he
now
been there?
yeah, yeah, do I support this? I'm not saying I don't support that. I think politicians need to have limitations, but that shows a lot of weaknesses, like we said as well. So I mean, it's very for me it's very complex to explain China, how this system actually works here. I think it's very unique. I think it might not work in other countries in this way.
That's the main thing. I think that China has no interest in exporting its political system for one very simple reason: it will not work in every country. I got a lot of heat when I said, like, look, communism and socialism in Venezuela does not compare to communism and socialism in China or in Russia or in Vietnam, for example. In Venezuela, I understand the whole embargoes and um, uh, the sanctions by the United States make it very difficult. But what I'm saying is, it's not, communism and socialism are tools.
Someone
They're
wrote,
tools.
you just put a comment on the screen, right? America's number one
I thought it
export
was
is
funny.
obesity and diabetes. I want to talk about that for a second, because what I think about that is that, I mean, you can say it as a joke. It's kind of true. Uh, People are obese in America and in other Western countries as well, right? But this is what happens when when you're too comfortable and you are at the top for a long time and you're not careful, right? This can happen in China too. In 20, 30, 40 years from now, this might be the case in China. We're already seeing a lot more fat people that
Mm.
are here, and we haven't seen, we had not seen Chinese fat people 15, 20 years ago, right, Fernando?
Yeah, true. Children.
So, so there are some bad things that happen with
Hmm.
being a leader, with having money, with being too comfortable, and I
Hmm.
think China would be smart if they learn from those things as well, and I think they do. That's why America is, like this person says, the number one export is obesity and diabetes.
Let me bring another comment that I want us to comment on. This is really interesting. Chronomatique, that's a French word. Let's imagine this. If in the next second all weapons in the world disappeared, which country will be in a disadvantage? Damn, Chronomatique. That's
It's a
that's a
good
very
question.
interesting
Let's imagine this
perspective.
is the next second. All the, I think, what does it mean, a disadvantage? I can say my country. It's
Yeah,
a big contender for the right answer for this question. Israel,
America.
America. Basically, the countries that have based their power on their military.
On ruling, not leading, not necessarily leading, but ruling. If you lose weapons, that's it. All right. So let's see if any other more comments. We're coming to, well, we passed the hour of streaming. Ziv, any other comments that you would
Let's
like to
just
comment on?
let's just look at the comments here for a second, and let's see if we can answer a few people. Thank you for writing all these
Hmm.
comments. If you are not a troll,
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching.
China
We
doesn't want to rule
love.
the world. They are, China doesn't want to rule the world. They're buying it. Yet they don't care how you want to govern yourself as a nation state. So, um, in
Let me
some
find
way,
it.
I can understand someone saying that.
Hmm. Yeah,
What do you mean? What do you mean they
they
don't
just want
care?
to do more business.
What do you mean they don't care how you want to govern yourself as a nation state? What does that mean? I'm not sure.
Well, what I understand, 给乡 means here is that they don't care what political system you have in your country. Do you know what I mean?
So you
As
mean,
long as we
yeah,
can do business together, you do you, boy, you do you, but
right,
let's sit
right,
down and
right.
do business.
And I think I have a quote here that Xi Jinping just said recently. I think he told the UN in last September, China, that Beijing will never seek hegemony, expansion, or sphere of influence. I think that talks to this statement here. So they are not looking to influence politically, um, in a big way. Yeah, you govern, like you said, you do you. In
Hmm.
general, that's what we see. That's what we hear. I guess that China haters may just say, "Oh, they're lying,"
Yeah.
right? But I mean,
True.
we can see the evidence that they want to, at least as far as I know. I don't know what's going on in Africa, for example, where China has a lot of economic influence.
Yeah.
Um, but I haven't seen any evidence of China playing with other countries' politics too much.
Well, a lot of people were saying that the vaccine was diplomacy. Um, it's like it's one of those situations where China is good if China does something. Sorry, it's bad if China does something, and it's bad if China doesn't do something. Um, for example, with this vaccine situation, if China gives vaccines to poor countries, they're just trying to buy influence with their vaccines. If China doesn't offer vaccines to a country, you see, they're not helping us. There's nothing that China does that can't be twisted into a negative, and it's so tiring when you are basically following the news and following politics and interested
Right.
in these kind of things like you and I are. Um, what do you think about the situation with the vaccine?
How, with the vaccine, um,
Hmm.
Just before I say that, I see someone saying something interesting a while ago. Here in America,
Tell me the
anything
name.
Chinese, Drake
Tell me the
plus
name.
two.
Drake
Drake
plus two.
plus two. Here in America, anything Chinese are going to be closed down. Um, I mean, the sentiment, I guess, that he's talking about. I think even the last couple of days there was condemnation by a big figure. Who did I see on Twitter of this anti-Asian sentiment and some
Oh,
incident.
so bad. So
Yeah,
bad.
was something happening a couple days ago, right? Terrible.
There's been
Yeah,
so
and
many attacks.
I was writing on someone. I was writing a comment. I think Joe Wang did an interview with CGTN.
Hmm.
Um, and anyway, I was writing that someone was asking something in the comments, and the racism, this kind of attacks. I think China has racism. China has fear from foreigners sometimes. We've experienced it. I have experienced it, but it's not violent. Nobody was rude to me. They just
Hmm.
didn't want me to stay in a place because I was a foreigner, which was enough to kind of piss me off. I know,
During
kind of
COVID,
hurt.
right? Like,
Yes,
is it like in normal situations or during COVID specifically? That's important difference, I guess.
during COVID, but it's kind of funny. You have a few cases and everybody's like so afraid. And in the US is what is it, 100,000 a day?
Sure, no, but my point was, did you experience this kind of
Yes,
discrimination
yes.
before COVID?
Before COVID, never. I'm always saying how
Was it only during COVID?
I got positive discrimination because I'm Jewish, because the Chinese love the Jews.
They
But
love
no,
Jewish.
I've never. But I mean, even just COVID, it does show you. I mean, but even before COVID, right? I didn't experience discrimination, but you can talk about black people, you can talk about different things, right? It's not that China is clean from discrimination. No, it's not that China doesn't have racism. China has racism, like any country has racism, actually. But
Hmm.
um, but I haven't experienced, or I haven't seen many cases of violence over racism, which is
Hmm.
very easily happening in some other countries. That's what I mean. That's the difference.
It's very, very sad, and on my live stream last night with Caliber Wings, we send our hearts and prayers and positive energy to all the Asian diaspora in America, because it's escalating. It's like it's becoming a snowball effect. Started with one person and then another and then another. It's just
And someone just wrote Dave PSK, something that I really 100% agree with. No system is perfect. Democracy fails often. The only system that is good is a system that truly takes care of the people.
I
I
want to
think
say something about this, because we know people who like to hate on China. One of the main things that they say is, you can't criticize the government in China. I dare you to wear a Winnie the Pooh sweater on the street. I mean, stupid stuff like that. And here's my question to those people: how do you think China evolves so quickly? How do you think China resolves its problems so quickly? They implement a rule and they get feedback from the citizens. That's criticism. Hey, this is not working. Hey, this is affected. And then what do? They go and reform. They are constantly reforming the rules and regulations based on what? Based on what?
look,
Listening to people.
the communism that the West is afraid of, that communism is uh, is not this communism. you know, I mean,
Mhm.
in that communism, the lives of people don't improve dramatically year by year. Over the last 2 decades, 3 decades, right? Um,
Mhm.
how do you improve the life of people? You need to listen to them, right? China, maybe they don't. You could say they don't listen to them in the polls, or but they listen where it matters in many cases.
Mm. I
So
see it. I mean, it's very difficult to show to people, and I've been meaning to make a video about this, but it's very difficult to show the before and after. But you and I can talk about it here live. Think about traffic regulations. Think about, for example, the street right in front of Starbucks where your office is. There was no divider.
Right.
All of a sudden, boom, divider. So
Right.
that people don't cross the street in the middle of the road, only in designated areas.
Right.
Where did that
Right.
come from? From somebody say, hey, it would be a good idea to do this. Hey, this is dangerous. And then what did they do? They established areas where you can make U-turns.
Right.
The same in front of one for the
So
road.
you
This,
could
I mean,
see-
they're constantly listening to, okay, what do we need to do to make things better? And that's positive criticism. You can criticize what the government has done. Sometimes they have to go on, oh shit, this was wrong. So they redo it and they fix it. And
and I would say
that's the
that
criticism that
sometimes-
is accepted here.
I would say that sometimes things, improvements like that, move quite slow, but they are moving. They are improving.
Mhm.
And we can, like you said, I see it in the roads too. I mean, I drive and I see it all the time, and I notice it. It does make our life better. So
Yeah.
Okay. So Fernando, are we going to go on, or
I think
Are we-
I've gone pretty much over all my topics. I wanted to talk a little bit more about infrastructure, but I think that everybody knows the infrastructure of China. If you want to see great infrastructure in China, go watch a channel called Reported by Media.
and one thing
Unbelievable footage.
about infrastructure, in relation to the question we're asking today: will China rule the world? If you think about infrastructure, that was also the first step America took before they ruled the world.
The world.
Right? So
Yeah.
so you can see China have done this in the last 2 decades quite amazingly. Yes, like you said, you can see it in many other channels. But so let's conclude this with, do we have an answer to our question? Will China rule the world? I would say the answer is no.
No.
I don't think they're looking to rule the world. They're not looking to rule the world, but will China be a bigger, a more prominent, more and more prominent leader? I think there is no doubt. The answer is yes.
Yes, we're already there, I think.
Yes,
We're already
so
there.
in
It's
some
just
way
going
we're
to
already
continue to expand.
Right.
All right, guys. Well,
Okay.
we want to thank you all for watching this video. Before we log off, we close here. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to go to Ziv's channel.
And
Ziv
hit the like
Lickman.
button there too.
And
Again.
click the correct. Let me place the the link here, so you go and you subscribe to Ziv Lickman's channel.
Yeah, and
make
also-
make sure to share this with whoever you want to. We're giving you free pass to share all this information to whoever you
And
want on
also,
social media.
If you have any topics you would like us to talk about in our next lives, let us know in the comments. We do read all the comments. We'll try to answer most of them as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is something we may continue to do weekly.
China time, baby.
Right? Broadcasted on 3 channels, and hopefully you can enjoy some of my videos on my channel, and look forward to some more interesting content.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much. And as always,
Thank
if you
you.
like this video, give it a thumbs up. You hate
Have
that
a good
closing,
day,
right?
everybody, wherever you are. Fernando, have a good day.
Okay. Goodbye, guys. Take care.
Goodbye.